Mark this morning on the way in. I said, I remember the old Ed Sullivan program. Anybody here remember Ed Sullivan? Yeah. The rest of you going like, who was he? Anybody remember the Beatles? Who? John McCartney. Yeah. Paul McCartney. Oh, Wings. No, long before Wings, there was the Beatles. So. All that to say, he was the one that opened up the doors in America to the Beatles when they came into this country. But he used to have all different kinds of entertainers on his show. And one of the people that I always thought was really interesting was the plate spinner. Remember that guy? He had dowel rods, stationary dowel rods, about 8 or 10, 12 inches apart. And he'd take plates and he'd spin them and set them on the top, and he'd get them going all real fast. And you heard this music, and you were just right on the edge of your seat, watching him spin all these plates. And he would go down, and this one would begin to wob, wob, wob. And he'd run down here and get it going again, going again. And he would go down, and the goal was to get, 25, 40 of these things going in the air. I was a nervous wreck watching him. I kept waiting for a plate to fall. It never did, because I know he was, he knew what he's capable of doing. But see, every day we're like that. We've got all of these personalities who we are for every group of people that we want to like us, that we have to keep spinning those things in the air because we're afraid that if they saw who we really were, they would not like us. When in reality, the only person I want to see is the real you. I'm not interested in how much money you make. I'm not interested in the job that you have, other than just being interested for interest's sake. I'm not interested really about anything other than getting to know you without all the stuff. Because the very first thing that I wanted our church to be was to be a safe place. Where when we walk in the door, we can be who God made us and intended us to be, free. See, he came to open the doors for the captives. And we can think that that's for everybody else but me. Because you don't know the doors that I have slammed shut in my life. But I tell you, it's a painful thing to begin to write down all of your character defects. Painful. And it doesn't come easy because you have to own up and admit the fact that you have lied, that you have been purposefully dishonest. I never thought about myself being dishonest. I mean, when I grew up, I was told to tithe off of everything that I got. So when I got my allowance, I tithed off of that. I learned to give to God when I was a child. So it's very easy for me today to give. I don't have a problem about giving. Don't, because I know that God's going to bring it back to me. But I was very legalistic. When they said 10%, $2.98. That's what God gives, $2.98. Bless God. I don't care. I'm not giving the 2 cents. Because I wanted to be perfect. That's what the Word of God said. That's what I wanted to be. And I became more increasingly under the pressure of trying to perform to a level at which everyone had grown accustomed to. A level of perfection that was so painful to continue, so costly, that there were days that I didn't want to get up, to have to be that for everybody else. I didn't want to have to be the perfect breadwinner. I didn't want to have to be the perfect son. Because I was already missing that because they thought I was straight. My dad never knew difference. He died before I could tell him. My mom knows. She died. My sister knows. She's in the Philippines. But I told my family because I wanted to be free from that. Because we try to do everything to make everybody comfortable and feel all right. We want to be accepted. We want to be loved. We need approval. The problem is the price and the distance we go to do that is unhealthy. And it brings a lot of bondage with it. Step 4 is, it involves that self-examination. Step 4, make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Ever cheated on your income tax? Don't raise your hand. You know, 78% of Americans believe it's okay to cheat on your income tax. 78%. I think it's amazing. With that odds, I would hire more people to examine more taxes. The odds are you're going to find somebody that's been dishonest. 3 to 1. Have you ever told somebody that you were going to be somewhere and they were really looking forward to you being there and knowing in your heart, I'm not going? They are crazy. But I'll be there. We purposefully lie. Does this pair of jeans, Daddy, make my butt look big? There is no good answer. Honey, it's not the jeans. Having 4 daughters, you would know that. Lamentations 3, verse 40. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Lamentations was written by David's son, Solomon. Lamentations, a crying of the heart, a longing, a drawing on God. Because with all of his wealth, with all of the wives, golly, all of the concubines, 1,000. Now, some people have an appetite, but that's stupid. I could barely keep up with 1 wife and 4 daughters. Barely keep them satisfied working as much as I did. Having everything, having the wisdom that only God could provide, the wealth, the opulence that he lived in, and still the thing that he sought after the most escaped him. And he cried out to God, I'm going to take a deep, hard look on the inside of me to find what's wrong. You wouldn't look at him and think that anything's wrong. How could anything be wrong? How can you be unhappy? Look at all of what you got. You know what? You can be the wealthiest person in the world and still be the loneliest person in the world. The other step that we're going to cover, step 5, is the discipline of confession. The step actually says to admit to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. People don't like telling the stuff about them. Because the moment that we tell the stuff, the cat is out of the bag. But the cat's got freedom. Somebody in this church made a comment. They said they didn't want me to know something because they would know that I would know that they weren't perfect. Too late. Somebody made this statement. Shaw made it in part of her testimony. She went looking for a perfect church. I'm looking for a perfect church, and I found it. Well, that just made it imperfect when she walked in the door. No. She knows I'm kidding. Not really. Okay, so. But all that to say, I want this to be a safe place where it's okay to be human and not perfect, because there was only one like that. Now, we can long to be like him, but I got news for you. We'll never make it until we get there and be like him. We'll see him and we'll be like him instantly in a moment. But it's not going to happen in our lifetime. Probably. I realized through writing everything down that every problem in my life I caused. My wife has the right to call me a liar. My children have that right. Painful as that is, they have that right. Because I lied to them. I was dishonest. Because I thought I could be two people at once. I thought I could be the people that they wanted me to be. All those people, a good dad, a good father, one that takes care of them, that provides all of their needs. So I became God to them. All of those things, I became the person that my in-laws needed. They needed somebody who was superhuman about putting meetings together. I told you part of my testimony that, like I said earlier, I was one of maybe 4 people in this country who could do the job that I was doing. During the late 80s, if you'll remember back, those of you that were around, we had all the scandals about Swaggart. We had all the scandals about PTL. We had all the scandals about Bob Tilton, Larry Lee. All of those things were going on. W.V. Grant Jr. All of those things, a lot of them happening right here in the Bible Belt. But even amidst all of that, God still gave me the ability to pull the largest crowds in the largest arenas in this country successfully 60 months in a row. My budget was in the millions of dollars every year. And I look back at that and I wore that like a medal because it was me. It was me. I worked really hard to get here. I had one guy said, "How old do you think you are? When you think of yourself, Pastor Bob, how old do you think you are?" And at the time, I was 35. And I said, "Well, when I think about myself, I think I'm probably about 50, 55. He said, "Why is that?" I said, "Because there's nobody who can do what I do as young as I do it." And I thought of myself being really successful, really good. And I thought that it was me. I thought that it was my intelligence, my smart, my studies, that God had supernaturally equipped me to do this, and I was one of a few people, and I wore that as a proud badge. I look back, and it wasn't me. It was the collective group of people that made me successful. It was a collaboration of talent. But don't think I shared that with anybody, because I was selfish. All the problems in my life I caused, I did it, but I could not undo it. I was incapable of fixing the messes that my life had made. And I have to own up to my own mistakes. I began to search and to create a moral inventory. That's what I've done. And I had to tell myself, I'm going to write these things down. And when you write them down and you